What is up, everybody? Super good to see you today. So there's this new game by the New York Times that I've been a little bit more than obsessed with. It's called Connections, and it's pretty easy to explain. You get a 4x4 grid of words, and your goal is to group them into 4 groups of 4 such that each group has something in common. And that's it. Now you can see me playing today's connection. You can see that I first selected katsu, schnitzel, samosa, and falafel because they're all fried foods. Got that correct. Then I selected watercolor, oil, acrylic, and tempera because they're all paints. Got that correct. And then you can see what happens if you get something wrong, like I did right there. You lose a life, and you only have 4 of those, so you don't want to lose all of those. But then I got that right. Got the final group is pretty obvious because it's the only 4 left, and you're done with the puzzle. It's a really cool thing that makes you think, but also is self-contained and feels so tractable. I really enjoy solving it. I would give it a go yourself tomorrow if you got some time. But now, going back to the lives you have left, a couple days ago, I was super stuck on the puzzle of the day. I had gotten 2 groups successfully, and there was just 8 words left, and I was thinking, it should be pretty easy to figure out what at least one of the remaining 2 groups are. But I just could not for the life of me figure out which 4 words belong together. I lost life after life after life, and it was game over for me. I felt very defeated. I went outside for a walk, and during my walk, I thought about, this all feels so data science-y. It feels like there must be a way to encode the beliefs we have about how similar sets of words are to each other, encode that as numbers so that an algorithm can then take those beliefs and then spit out its most probable 4 groups of 4. Put that way, it's not really cheating. It's kind of just taking the beliefs we have rattling around in our brain about which words belong together, giving that information to an algorithm, and letting it see all the patterns that our human brains couldn't see all at the same time. So I started thinking about how would we encode our beliefs about sets of words being similar to each other as numbers. And as I said that sentence, Bayesian statistics obviously just came forward because it's all about encoding your prior beliefs in things as numbers and then using that to come to some kind of conclusions about the world. So what I decided to do is let's represent our belief in some set of words being in the same group as a probability in the Bayesian sense. As a number between 0 and 1, as all probabilities are, but in the Bayesian sense because we're using that number not because it came from any frequentist observations about the world, but because it's some kind of level of belief I have about some group of words being similar. I could be right, I could be wrong, but we have to start somewhere, and given those numerical beliefs, we can come up with a method that takes those beliefs and spits out what the 4 groups of 4 should be if we truly believe what we're saying we believe. Now, before we get into the actual method, we need to think about a little bit more about the framework of this problem. If we had infinite time and infinite resources, what we would do is look at every possible solution to the puzzle. And what does a solution to the puzzle look like? It's 4 groupings of 4 words each, and that's a possible solution to the puzzle. How many such solutions exist? Well, we can do a little combinatorics here, and we can say, well, you first have to pick the 4 words that are going to be in the first group. So that's going to be 16 choose 4. Now you have 12 words remaining, so you can do 12 choose 4 for the next group. Now you have 8 words remaining, so 8 choose 4 for the third group. And now you have 4 words remaining, so that's just going to be 4 choose 4. There's a bit of a nuance here because we assume that there's some kind of order to these groups, but there's really not. It doesn't really matter which order you solve this puzzle in. So we can divide all that by the total number of orders of 4 groups, which is 4 factorial. And we get that there's over 2.6 million possible solutions to this puzzle. That is going to be way too big for us to manually sit there and assign probabilities to each solution. So let's simplify the problem a little bit. Instead of enumerating all possible solutions to the puzzle, let's just enumerate all possible combinations of 4 words. Because if we can assign a probability, a belief, to each possible combination of 4 words, maybe we can rank that descending by our belief, by this probability, and then just kind of work our way down and try those combinations one at a time. Now it turns out this is still kind of intractable. If we did 16 choose 4, which is the total number of ways to get a set of 4 words from these 16, then that's still going to be over 1,800 things we need to sit there and enumerate. That's still going to be kind of intractable. So let's simplify the problem even one step further. Forget about solutions, forget about sets of 4 words, let's just look at pairs. The number of pairs is way smaller than either of the other numbers we just looked at. There's 16 things, so 16 choose 2 would give us the total number of pairs, and that's 120. It's going to take a second to sit there and go through all the pairs and mark what the probability you think that that pair is going to be in the same group, but it shouldn't take too long. And the other advantage this has is that it's a lot easier and quicker for us to look at a pair of words and assign some kind of belief-based probability, rather than look at a set of 4 words and really think about how does that relate to the third one, how does the second relate to the first one. So with pairs, it's just how much do I think these 2 words are going to be in the same group? How likely do I think that is? So we have all of our pairs. We have probabilities between 0 and 1 for all of our 120 pairs. Now we're going to pivot and go away from Bayesian statistics and towards graph theory. We can actually represent this problem as a graph, where we have 16 nodes, 1 for each word that we're considering, and we have edges between nodes, and the weight on each of those edges is exactly going to be the belief-based probability that we just came up with. For example, if we have phantom and ghost, well, I can look at that and say those are both like spooky apparitions, and so I'm going to give them a belief-based probability of 0.9, which translates to a weight between those 2 nodes. The edge weight will be 0.9. I can look at linen and genie and say, I really don't see a connection there, so I'm just going to give them a probability of 0.1. And that translates to an edge weight connecting those 2 nodes of 0.1. And now that we have our whole graph constructed here, what we want is to split up this graph into 4 groups of 4, such that the edge weights connecting nodes who are in the same group is high, and the edge weight, which is between nodes not in the same group, is low. Put like that, this sounds an awful lot like a clustering problem, and that's exactly what we're going to use to give us the solution that we want. We're going to take this graph where the edges between nodes are telling us how likely, how strongly we believe these 2 words are going to be in the same group, and we're going to run a clustering algorithm, and it spits out these 4 groups. We see that we actually had all the information we needed in our heads. It's just that we weren't able to put it together in real time solving the puzzle, but if we fed that information, or rather those beliefs, to a computer and had it just look at all the information at once and come up with what it thinks the most likely 4 groups are, then it's able to exactly solve the puzzle. And the really cool thing too is that if we look at that last group, which ended up being Disney characters, by the way. Stitch, Scar, Genie, and Beast are all Disney characters. I was really getting thrown off by the Stitch and all the kind of fabric stuff going on earlier, so that's why I didn't get it. But if we look at that last group, there's actually not crazy strong connections between these Disney characters, which is kind of reflecting the fact that I didn't really believe that these were going to be linked. But the advantage of this method, the beauty of this method, is that it's able to rely on the information about your strong beliefs, about stuff you really think should belong together. And what's left is these kind of leftover nodes where there's not strong connections between them, but by virtue of them not really having strong connections to the other things as well, which did have strong connections to each other, these leftovers are able to be clustered into a group of their own. And that's kind of the beauty that this method has over at least my human brain thinking. I'm sure there's those among you who are already thinking at a similar level as this algorithm already. But I find that it's just a very elegant way to input your beliefs and output, based on those beliefs, looking at the big picture, what the groups should be. Now I want to make sure I'm not biased because I wrote this algorithm and came up with this method after I already knew what the solution was to the puzzle that I failed at. And so the next day I woke up, I looked at the puzzle for that day, and I put in all the beliefs fresh. I had no idea if this was actually correct or not, and it came up with almost the correct solution. There was one swap, because at the end of the day, this method is only going to be as good as your beliefs. If you put a very low probability between 2 nodes that actually are going to be in the same group and you just didn't see the connection, then it's only going to be that strong. But that is kind of something I like. It doesn't really feel like cheating. What would feel like cheating, and probably this is going to answering a question some of you have right now, is why don't you just ask ChatGPT for this? Well, 2 reasons. One, I did ask ChatGPT for this, and it really leans into the hallucination problem of large language models, where it just kind of comes up with an explanation for a group when it doesn't really know what to do. For example, it made a group called mythical creatures, and it said Beast, Genie, Phantom, and Rib were in that group. We all love the mythical creature, the rib. So A, ChatGPT doesn't do any better. In my experience, it actually does worse than this method. And B, that really does blatantly feel like cheating because you're not doing any of the thinking on your own. You're just feeding this to a large language model, saying, tell me what you think. But with this method, it's more saying, this is what I think. Can you just stare at all this information and make sense of it for me? So hopefully you guys found this video kind of interesting. I really would give the game a try. It's super fun, cool way to start your morning or end your day. If you had any other ideas about how to approach this problem, I'm sure this is not the only or even the best one out there. I would love to hear about it in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos just like this, and I will see all you beautiful people next time.